Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. This is your brother Asif Irani from Islamic Learning Foundation. Many of my young brothers and sisters have asked me this question, that what are the gender interaction guidelines in Islam? What are the principles which we should abide by when we are interacting and socializing with each other? Because after all, there are two different extremes in Muslim community in terms of gender interaction. One is extremely culturally conservative extreme, and for them the interaction between man and woman is completely haram and prohibited. And obviously they are not following sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because we know from many ahadith and even from the ayat of the Quran that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to interact with the female companion of his time. He never said that no, I cannot answer your questions because it's haram for a man to talk to a woman. He never did this. So obviously there was an interaction. And then there is other extreme in Muslim community which think that do whatever you want, just keep your heart clean. Kissing, hugging, touching, do whatever you want, all good in the hood, as long as your heart is clean, nothing else counts. But obviously they are even not following the Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and prophetic way of interacting with the stranger opposite gender. Now the question is, what is actually the gender interaction guideline in Islam which we should abide by? So there are primarily four guidelines which we need to understand. If we will follow these four guidelines in our school, college, university, workplace, mall, whenever we are interacting with a stranger opposite gender, the interaction will be halal. If we miss any of these, then it will go in the direction of haram. What are those guidelines? Step number one, make sure you have a respectful way of looking at each other. Make sure there is a respect in your eyes. Do not give dirty looks to each other. Do not stare at each other. Do not check each and everything out. As a matter of fact, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says this in the Quran in Surah An-Nur, ayat number 30 and 31, that make sure you have a respectful way of looking at each other. And the scholars actually says different things about how to do that. One group of scholars say that make sure you are trying to keep your gaze as lower as you can. The other group of scholars say that actually you can look at the face, but you cannot look at the privates, because it's an undeniable fact that have attraction. The third group of scholars say that actually you can look at the face, but if a dirty thought comes in your mind, then you should keep your gaze lower. So there are diverse opinion, but one summary of all these diverse opinion is that we should bring haya and respect in our eyes when we are interacting with the opposite gender. Step number two, make sure the conversation and interaction is professional, not personal. Make sure the conversation is useful, not useless, and it is extremely important. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to interact with the female companion, and he used to answer all their questions in a very professional way. So it is important in our society that we are interacting with the stranger opposite gender, but our interaction is professional, because without the healthy interaction with the opposite gender, the community cannot flourish. So it is extremely important, but make sure it's professional. In your workplace, in your schools and colleges, in a group project, if you are discussing something about physics project, just make sure that conversation reduced to the physics project. It should not lead you to get physical to each other. So that's the number two. Number third, make sure there is no physical contact. Try to avoid physical contact as much as you can. We are living in a free society where kissing, hugging, touching is a norm. So just make sure there is no physical contact as much as you can with the stranger opposite gender. Try to keep some space when you are interacting with each other. If you can smell perfume, you're getting too close. If you can smell shampoo or deodorant, you are getting too close. Try to keep that gap. And obviously these are our guidelines, so we should not be shamed of practicing these guidelines. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, actually, when he would take the religious oath and pledge with the women folks of his time when they were accepting Islam, even at that time he would avoid physical contact of shaking hand, even for the religious reason. So we should try to avoid physical contact as much as we can. Number fourth step which we have to do, just make sure when we are interacting with each other, we should avoid meeting in private. We should meet in public, even though we are discussing something professional, but just make sure the meeting is taking place in public, because Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said in a hadith that when a man and a woman, a stranger to each other, if they are meeting in private, in closed doors, third one is shaitan. And you have to feel this shaitan. Don't try to see this shaitan with two horns. No, that's a Hollywood shaitan. You have to feel this shaitan when you are alone with the stranger opposite gender. There's someone who will whisper in your ears, why don't you do this? Why don't you joke around? Start with jokes and then eventually do those bad things. So just make sure that meeting takes place in public. All these four guidelines which I just mentioned also apply on social media. on Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, WhatsApp, whatever you have. So now you cannot just go into the profile on Facebook of the stranger opposite gender. So basically, do not stalk unnecessarily. And when you are texting or emailing, just make sure, try to keep a group conversation if you can. I know sometimes it's impossible in a business world, but once you are in school and college, then do it as much as you can. Try to do it group messages, try to CC someone, so that that you apply the hadith into your conversation, even on social media. So basically, I mentioned 4 things. If we remember these 4 things, inshallah, our interaction will be halal. Have a respectful way of looking at each other, professional conversation, not personal conversation, avoid physical contact as much as you can, and 4th, avoid meeting in private and meet in public. I hope and pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us and our entire progeny from the path of zina. If you like this video, please make sure to share this video. Jazakumullahu khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.